Hello and welcome to the first build update of my Vortex of Projection Hierophant. Now, my league start has gone incredible, and it was even better than last league. I've got my first 2 Void Stones, and I've completed 80 out of 115 of the maps. It has been a breeze. Well, I've had a few deaths, however that was mainly before I've got capped block. Right now my gear is a bit of a hybrid between the first POB and the second POB. So the early game to the mid game. Now really, while I have got some expensive items, mainly the Unnatural Instincts, because of the way I've done the switch too early, because before I would have been pathing over here, grabbing Tylus and that, I've had to put it over here just to grab these block nodes, and also my Militant Faith is kind of terrible, so it's not giving me any extra damage. So really there would be not much be different if you just took this out, remove the points from here and just put it back here, and then path more optimally, because right now I've got 3 wasted points as I'm not using the Cloak of Defiance. Now the end game and the power charge stacking tree has changed slightly. Not enough that the build has changed drastically, just so I've saved a couple points. The big change I've added is this. This will eventually be a Red Nightmare and provide us a lot of attack block. Now what's interesting about the Red Nightmare is it converts our fire res, well it doesn't convert, it gives us block based on how much fire res and all res is in the radius. Now these 2 passives give all res, however you can also convert your strength nodes into fire res with tattoos. This gives you about 18% block and solves a lot of issues, because right now I'm having to use 2 replica reckless defense just to cap block, and capping block is incredibly important for your defenses and you will certainly feel it if you don't have it. Now talking about the gear, everything is incredibly important. The Rainbow Stride plus the Stone of Lazarus give you your spell block and a bit of mana. This gives you your leech. Eventually you will be wanting it on your large cluster jewel, as this will open you up to get a rare, so you can get dexterity as well as a minimum endurance charge. However, I've not had much luck rolling them, and this is the best I've managed, the passives really should be replaced by leech as well as max mana plus pen. Finally, and most importantly, Anathema has kind of, well, not been carrying but greatly enhancing the build's damage, as the triple curse setup is ridiculously powerful for deleting bosses. We don't need it for regular gameplay, but for stuff like Eater and Exarch you can definitely feel it when you don't have your curses up. This is because the curses provide a majority of our pen, as the only other source is really lightning pen, and punishment is amazing once they get below half health. Continuing on with gear, I've effectively gone over the tree and the jewels. There's some rares in there as well, but they really only give me like 9% mana and they help with the attributes. Later on they'll be removed and the attributes will be gotten from the ring. The rares aren't much to talk about, they are incredibly low rod stuff. I've crafted them myself, and by crafted I mean I put like 1 or 2 essences on them. This Essence of Envy, this Essence of Loathing, not Loathing, I don't know, it's the one that gives you mana reservation and attack bulk. Finally, the wand. Just pick this up the ground. It's very nice, 154 mana and effectively like 50-60% spell damage. You can do much better than this, but right now, to get the optimal wand requires recombinators if you want to do it easily, and a lot of essences, and I've not really seen much reason to replace this, as it's doing its job and I'm not really having many issues with damage. Finally, the uniques. Now the uniques carry this build. I've designed this build around the uniques because they are so powerful. In fact, it feels like I am playing a Diablo 4 build, because I'm just really picking up the uniques that go with this build, and it's just slotting in without much thinking. I've already talked about how good Anathema is. It's incredible for your single target damage. This should be your first big upgrade. But now the other uniques are incredibly cheap. This max mana, which gives you damage defense as well as your mana as ES. Even a terribly rolled one like this is incredibly powerful for the build. The Stone of Lazarus This carries the build. You eventually can get a good corrupt on it because it's so cheap, but you can get a near perfect one for about a chaos. This one here cost me a chaos orb, and it gives you so much. The cast speed, the mana, incredible for damage and defense, and the spell block combined with Rainbow Stride spell block helps you cap your spell block. Last two uniques of the build that I am using, the Loco's Sign. This gives you damage, more damage, a little bit of mana, but most importantly this gives you leech. Eventually you do want to replace this with a rare ring that gives you dexterity, mana, cast speed, chaos res, etc. Also the minimum endurance charge once you get it from the tree. Finally, Algo Mortis. This does one thing, and it does it very well. It gives you a bunch of damage from enemies in your chilling area, take 33% increased lightning damage. It also increases the effect of your shock. Oh yeah, and it stops enemies, which is good defense. This is just really good unique, yeah, D4 build. Finally, I'm going to go over what I'm doing for currency. Now, there's nothing special. I've just been doing some basic crafts, and it has given me a lot of currency because of asynchronized trading. This means I can do maps, I can go away, I can do whatever, and I'll still get my sales. It lets me spam out some very cheap but profitable crafts and make a lot of currency. It lets me power through maps so I don't have to focus on currency because I can craft in the background, do a map, get some profit, continue on and progress the atlas at a breakneck speed until eventually I can do some really profitable strategies like T17. Now, how is the new league mechanic for currency? Pretty simple. Not that great early on. I see a lot of potential later on. The Foulborn uniques are cool. I haven't really found any that's like really good for this build. The equipment crafting, it's not very good. It's just worse graveyard crafting. We've had this before. It does similar things to what graveyard crafting does. It's got the same modifier types. We've seen the exact same wording for this, like modifier tier rate in birthed equipment. It's just that, but we don't have the graveyard space, so it's just worse. There is one thing that you might be able to do with this. I've not really experimented enough with it, but we know what we can do with graveyard, and we can kind of force mods. Not with 100%, not even with like 50%, but there's a very high chance that you can just spam out some cheap equipment womb gifts with the +1 item levels. You can farm like, I don't know, T8 maps, get some cheap ones, then do some T17 so you can get the life force, the +1 item levels, because you can manipulate that. And more importantly, what I'm trying to say is you can get some really cheap fractured items. Birthed equipment have a 33% chance to be fractured, combined with removing the lowest modifier tier, as well as manipulating what sort of rolls on them. More importantly than the increased chance is the decreased chance. You can do some funky stuff, such as decreasing basically all the mods on an item, and you can not force spell suppression because there are other typeless mods, but get stuff like spell suppression on the cheap, stuff like mana for the cheap for our wands, and I feel like this is what the equipment's going to be used for in the future. I think that's about it for the build update. There's a lot that's going to change in the next couple of days, and hopefully by the next time I do a build update I will be in T17s, and I should be about the end game. The power charge stacking, I did some changes pre-release, and it's similar to what it was before, but it's got much better optimization, much more damage. The defense is something I still want to have a look at, as the EHP is actually down from the endgame build, but it does triple damage, so who cares.